Hello, I'm Dr. Neena Nair from Valia College, Mumbai. Welcome, viewers, to the third academic session of our action oriented Global Tipping Point Summit. We are delighted to see participants from various parts of India and from other countries as well, and would be very glad to see your questions in the chat box. This summit has been conceptualized by the dynamic education futurist, TEDx speaker, internationally acclaimed educator, and storyteller, Dr. Kumi S. Vivina. In October 2016, Dr. Vivina retired as professor and head of the Department of English, University of Mumbai, India. Dr. Vivina has two PhD degrees to her credit, one in literature and the other in education. She has published 11 books and 58 papers in peer reviewed national and international journals and critical anthologies. She has won numerous national and international awards. In 2013, her book on education, Sourceful Intelligence, was selected as among the 18 best books published in the USA. And her most recent book, What Children Really Want, has received critical acclaim from educators, psychologists, parents, writers from all over the world. In 2015, she was selected by the world leaders in education as among the 35 women from across the world changing educational paradigms. Dr. Devina has her own storytelling organization called Wordfully Yours, which hosts storytelling programs and conducts training workshops. We now invite you to view a short film on the summit, followed by a few words by Dr. Devina. Thank you.
A very good evening and welcome to the Global Tipping Point Summit. I'm delighted to welcome all of you here. In a moment, I would like to share my screen with you. So please tell me if the screen is visible now. Is the screen visible now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you. So a summit of this magnitude could not have happened without the cooperation of many, many people. This to me is an absolutely magical summit with 108 people working shoulder to shoulder. What is extremely interesting to me is that the speakers and the change facilitators have been working together for months to create very interesting projects, which we will talk about a little later. Special thanks to my excellent advisory board comprising Dr. Firoza Godrej, Mr. Noshir Kurodi, Mr. Noshir Dadrawala, Mr. Sanjay Rastogi, Mr. Yazdi Tantra, Ms. Devika Chatterjee, Ms. Rakhi Chabria, and Ms. Fiona Reynolds. My summit coordinator, Donna Reen, has been working with me on this summit for the past 1.5 years. A very special thank you to you, Donna. On the core committee, we once again have Mr. Yazdi Tantra, Deepa Soman, Mr. Milind Soman, Glenn Concessio, and Bhavin Shah. Our partners are Trent, Tantra Tech, K-Merck, Lumiere Business Solutions, Education World, Parents World, Penn Ultimate, Teachers Help Teachers, First Moms Club, and Wolves. The short film you saw earlier was made by Wolves. We have been blessed with encouragement from luminaries like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. This is the entire letter of Dalai Lama, but I'll read only the first paragraph of the letter. His Holiness says, I'm pleased to know about the Global Tipping Point Summit and its focus on improving the present educational system so that our younger generation can become responsible citizens of our planet. We have letters of support from Lieutenant General Shokin Chauhan, from one of the leading psychiatrists in India, Dr. Kersi Chowda, from Shyamak Davar, who is an internationally renowned choreographer and guru of contemporary dance in India, Shri M, a renowned spiritual guru, an educator, and an awardee of Padma Bhushan. Cyrus Brocha, a TV anchor, theater personality, comedian, political satirist, podcaster, and author. And Mr. Baman Irani, very well known in Bollywood and in the theater, a voice artist and a photographer. Thanks to all of you, and a very, very special thanks to all our wonderful speakers and change facilitators. The online Global Tipping Point Summit from November this year to January 2021 is designed to explore paradigm shifts in education and parenting in an innovative way. Our aim is to create healthy learning and nurturing ecosystems by combining knowledge with self-awareness and wisdom to transform our lack-based consciousness into one rooted in abundance. Who will be attending the summit? Policymakers and education board authorities, principals, teachers, college and university professors, parents, caregivers, librarians, counselors, students, and anyone who's interested in education and parenting. What do we do differently? We have world-class visionaries and thought leaders as speakers who will expound their ideas and point the way in the right direction. They will be supported by far in the belly change facilitators who will suggest effective and practical ways of implementing the ideas of the speakers. At the online summit, participants will be invited to form action groups in the areas of their choice and to create the change they wish to see in the world. By 2025, we hope to reach out to as many people as possible through face-to-face and online talks and workshops. Come, be a part of the change. For more details on the summit, please visit our website www.gtps4change.org. See you there.
Thank you, ma'am. It is now my great pleasure to introduce our speaker of the day, Mr. Nitin Orayan. An author, spiritual teacher, and educator, he was born and raised in Mumbai, India, where he completed his schooling and postgraduate studies in mass communication. He began his career in publicity, creating multimedia launch campaigns, pharmaceutical and consumer products. In the year 2002, at the age of 39, he took a much needed break from the fast paced corporate lifestyle in the city and retreated on a sabbatical by the riverside near Rajreshwari, a pilgrimage center on the outskirts of Mumbai. Nitin connected wholeheartedly with village life as he sat by the river and narrated stories to village children. He began meditating and penned his first book, Integrate the Self. 2 years later, he left the city for good to work in the villages and found his true calling, serving as a creative teacher to the village children in Ganeshpuri, well known for its hot springs and temples on the outskirts of Mumbai. In the year 2006, he took a leap into the world of social service, setting up a non-profit educational trust named Learning Space Foundation. to serve in the tribal areas of Thane and Palghar districts. Today, Nitin Orayan lives in a remote area near the Ganeshpuri Vrajeshpuri villages and works towards channelizing resources to better education for the rural tribal child. He writes regular articles for wellness, yoga, and spiritual awareness portals and has published three books in different genres, two of which have been translated and published in French and made available worldwide. His activities are listed on his website, orayan.in. That's Orayan. Welcome, Mr. Orayan, and over to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nina. And at the very outset, I would like to really congratulate Dr. Kumi for putting out this wonderful program. And what a wonderful way to bring people together and really create this medium for collective good. So thank you, Dr. Kumi, and the entire summit team. It's been a pleasure to be connected with you and to really be able to be part of this whole enterprise. So, I'd like to really start by saying that I chanced upon, a lifetime's calling by just having been to a village and taking some time to be able to connect with children, connect with the community. And it just inspired me that maybe this is where I have a calling. This is where I would really like to do something in my life. So it's an interesting, you know, it's these little breakthroughs that move our lives forward. And as far back as I remember, I think I really took that impulse and took that cue that the universe must have sent to me and said, can I be in the village all my life? Can I be really going there and doing something good? And all of it started with a sabbatical. For those who connect with the word sabbatical, I think it's a break from work. It's a break for really resting from work. And so in the year 2002, I got this chance to be able to break through and be, really living in the village for some time. What I'm going to do is uh, really be able to start my presentation by, sharing some insights, some of my experiences, many things, little things that I really noticed in my in the way that I connected with the village community. And I think at this summit, it would be really worthwhile for me to share those little insights that I had in my life, and my time with the village community. So I'm going to just do this. Let's just move up. Excuse me, just give me a moment. Yeah, just move up the screen first here. Yeah, so here, this is where it all begins. And I say in search of peace and purpose, and as you can see, it just took me to this beautiful open space, of mountains and hot springs and little children, living in the joy of that nature and the natural surroundings. And I felt I was so blessed to be there. And this is where the feeling to be part of a village community, to be with them and to serve a cause, came up very strongly for me. Can we go? Yeah. You may have to excuse me because yes. So I think when the process started for me, I did not have a plan what I wanted to do. There was no particular, understanding of what was needed. It was all, to be discovered. But, here I'd like to share some very, crucial thought processes that, went through my mind in those years, and this is what it was. I wanted to be active, useful in the rural space that I was living in. And I knew that, in spite of all my background and whatever I had learned in the city, and as a professional, needed to actually now connect with a new environment with a lot of patience and humility, because it was a completely new, place to be part of, with different systems, different ways of life, different things that, people believed in. And it was important for me to connect with all that. I also wanted to connect with, the deeper understanding of how, you know, children thought, how the youth thought, what went through their minds and their abilities, strengths, and challenges, and so on. And, really, I looked forward saying that, can this man, can I really, set up a support system for making a change here, and this was purely an intention. As we say in Sanskrit, it was just a sankalpa, a sankalp that would take me forward in this place. Now, you know, as I went into schools and colleges and met with, a few people that, were coming on my path, I really, was observing something wonderful, something really amazing and inspiring. And I'd like to share that here because I think, many of us, who had the privilege of being born in, in the urban areas and cities with all the comfort and everything, it's such an inspiring thing to go to a village and see that rural children, teachers, and the entire wheel, the entire system of education put so much effort to be able to, you know, make that education, make everything work. It's so much effort, such a great deal of effort. And, one thing really I cannot miss and must say here is, the rural children I met with, they were extremely intelligent, hardworking, very eager to learn, never saying no to anything. And with very little basic facilities, they were happy, joyous, inherently energetic, joyful, and very resourceful. Because what I observed in the village was that a village child had to get up in the morning and nothing was taken for granted. Had to go to the village well, drop the water, had to do this, do that, clean the house. So nothing came on a platter. Everything had to be done with one's effort and with one's ability to actually move the day forward. And you know, as I recount my observations, what comes up to my mind is that, all of this was done because there's a hope that, this effort would serve them in their life and take them forward. Now, in the process of my movement, and being able to set up a small trust, I called it Learning Space. The Learning Space was going forward very nicely. And this is the time at which I'd really like to share how, really what it takes to guide, mentor, and provide a career graph to a rural educated child, youth, and so I'd like to identify a couple of things, here. And this is what I call it, it's a connection with compassion, there's a relationship with responsibility, and there is giving with gratitude. So when you connect with children or connect with someone in any environment, it can come with a lot of compassion. Relationship always comes with responsibility and a two-way responsibility. And the giving, what we think that we are giving actually comes back with so much gratitude. So, as you can see in the slide, you can see a little boy on the left-hand side, Ganesh, who's also sitting and watching this session actually is you can see how the amount of joy and the amount of hope and dream that you can see in the little eyes of 11, 12-year-old Ganesh on the left-hand side. And then how, having nurtured that, nicely and with a lot of care and a lot of compassion, how this little boy grows into a fine young man and gets to learn the computers. He learns more with it, by the ability to teach little children, as you can see in the middle picture. And then eventually, all that effort, all that compassion, all the responsibility and the gratitude, makes, a fine young man who's now maybe in his late 20s, and a very interesting and very capable change leader. So there are a few things that you may have seen in the slide, and let's go to the next one. Now, having said all this, all along in these uh, years that I spent in the villages, and as I traveled through many villages, districts of Maharashtra, I could not help but have so many questions, serious questions in my mind about what will happen to the prospects of all these rural children, because I would see hundreds and thousands of children going to school, going to college, doing university courses. And this is, I've just put a few questions that were prominently coming up in my mind. I saw increasing number of girls from remotely located hamlets going to high schools, going to junior colleges, which never was the case, maybe 15 or 20 years back. And then the question was, what are they going to do after high school? Similarly, hundreds and thousands of young people go 60 kilometers to go, manage to reach a college. And it's a big effort to be able to do that to and fro every day, every working day. And the question that comes up to my mind is, will they have jobs after they complete all this education and with all the effort that they're putting in? Similarly, I had so many young people come and say, I want to do medical studies, I want to do engineering, pharma, and we were so happy to help them with all these degree courses. And then the question came is, as I put it here, will there be square pegs and round holes? Because where are they going to be applied? What are they going to do actually? And all of this, really has been my last 10 years journey of really finding solutions for all this. So let's go forward. Now, I'd really like to raise this, and for everyone who is here and connected with this session, I really want to ask, is migrating to the city in search of a job the only answer, the only solution? I ever since independent India, or even before, all that we've been doing is just migrate and just move out of our communities, move out of our homes, move out of our lands, and just go somewhere else in search of jobs. And it is still how India works today. And perhaps the pandemic has opened our eyes to something. But here, in the slide, I would like to say how so many young people, who leave their homes behind in the villages, this is what happens. They break away from their beautiful homes and open environments. They face a tremendous struggle in crowded cities and towns, facing separation from their family, there is struggle for basics of life in the city, which is already overcrowded. And you have more and more and more and more young people coming in search of jobs. And I really feel, how can rural development even happen if there is no one, no working member of the rural community left behind, and everyone goes to the city in search of job? How can rural development ever happen? So this is a question that comes to my mind. And let's look at this in a new perspective. I mean, I'm calling it new, but many of us, many NGOs, many people who have been part of this movement have been looking for solutions. And let's really look at this. Why not aim rural education and skills training to go in favor of rural development? If we are, skill building, if we are really giving skills to rural youth, educated youth, why can't it be all going in the favor of rural development? Why can't we train young people, in a manner that they are capable to come back in the rural area and do something for their communities? So here I'd like to just, put forth a few points, and this is, in my experience, I'm just putting out what I have deeply felt, living in the rural areas, working with the communities, living and working with the rural educated youth. I'm saying, can training and capacity building and internships for rural educated youth be planned and set for rural development? Can this be, more focused towards rural development? Isn't it high time? Government agencies, corporate CSR programs, and NGOs, if they can start focusing on livelihood programs with a goal to utilize this training for rural areas, for developing rural areas. I know, a lot of people are already doing it, but maybe it really needs to become a larger movement, for everyone to come into this. More creation of jobs and livelihood opportunities for rural educated youth in rural environments need to be planned and followed up by concerned government agencies. I mean, this is the need of the hour to really be able to go forward. Can we, this perhaps could be a way to tackle the puzzle of education not leading to employment, because actually, the huge number of rural educated youth that come from all over India, this is the wealth of the nation. This is what we really have as our true wealth, of so many hundreds and thousands and millions of young people educated in the rural areas. And can this, can they be provided certain training, to be self-employed? Can we really look at entrepreneurial training seriously, for them to be in the villages and do something very constructive? Can financial resources be provided to them by private banks and microfinancing companies? I've been talking to many, of the private banks, and really urging them to open up their doors and windows to a lot of rural educated youth that can be inspired to be in the villages and, really have their own startups and do things that would, support their communities and also, provide them with a livelihood. And I'm, really putting a point ahead to a lot of corporate entities that have, massive CSR programs. I'm saying, can you foster rural based units owned and managed by rural educated youth? Can this be part of the corporate CSR, where you really, select rural educated youth, train them, and help them build little units, which then can employ more people in the rural areas? I'm saying the answer is emphatic yes, and it will only happen if we all work towards collective good, and really step into a new normal with a lot more conscious, will, going forward. Now I'm set, actually being able to put forth a plan, perhaps that might, you know, pick up, some amount of momentum, some amount of, kind of, uh, there can be a will to take this forward from everyone's side. And what is this point I'm making is that, can social responsibility, the corporate entities have social responsibility. Can everyone have a social responsibility? Can I be, in the urban area and have a social responsibility for someone in the rural area? Now, if every well-to-do functional unit living and working in the urban areas, were to connect and cooperate with somebody in the rural area, this may not become a very tough job to do. If we all express our social responsibility in the form of something, some association, some partnership, something that we do together. If you can see on the screen, there is an REY who is the mediating point for all these associations that might be, possibly happen. There can be an international city-based school or college, taking the help of if a well-trained, rural-educated youth, holding his or her hand and partnering and associating with a rural high school or college. There can be a corporate entity holding the hand of an entrepreneurial trained, rural educated youth and build small-scale units and businesses in the rural areas. Similarly, with urban food stores, urban individuals, families, all having some mutual interest in the rural areas to be able to set up these partnerships. And I think that while we make so many collaborations happen all the time, we work on collaborations between countries, we work on collaborations between, different companies. Why not really think of collaboration as a guided feature between something in the urban area and something in the rural area? Because the rural area has resources to give you. It has land, it has people, it has so many things that will come to you if you just open up and, let us really look at this as a way for rural educated youth to become entrepreneurs and be the ones to hold your hand and make these partnerships and associations possible. How can each one of us play our part here? Now, the Learning Space Foundation, the trust that I am, heading, has in the past 10 years, been able to really, select, recruit, bring a lot of rural youth together and give them very beautiful training programs, take them to the city, build some kind of an, entrepreneurial training for them, and can this be done on larger basis, where they can be trained to really come back and work in their own villages and village schools? I'm giving you a few examples here. And, if, as you can see in the picture, there is a young lady from the rural area, highly educated, maybe an MA with English literature, her name is Vaibhavi Palve, living in a very remote area of the Palghar district. And, you know, she wants to train teachers. She's able to go school to school and do so many programs. Can a group of individuals in the urban area, a family or a corporate, come forward and help her be with her community and really carry out her work? Similarly, you have so many lovers of organic food now in the cities. And can a group of organic food lovers connect with a rural, family or a rural group and say, okay, let's set up this farm so that we can all take your produce to, the city, and therefore there is a direct market set up, for all these rural farmers to, send their produce directly to families. In fact, I've seen in the urban areas there are housing societies with as many as 500 houses that all would need, fresh vegetables, straight from a farm in the village. And, such a beautiful synergy for a housing society to connect with a rural area and say, we need this much of vegetable. Can we set up a way for all these vegetables to come? Similarly, you can do so many different things. You can work with many of these rural educated youth, and these can be very mutually viable partnerships. We don't need to necessarily think of this as charity. These can be very mutually working partnerships. According to me, we've tried that out. So here I am actually. I see endless possibilities. There is no dearth of possibilities here for so many people in the urban area to come out, directly interact with village communities. So many people who can have a place to go to. Everyone in the urban areas want to rush out with their families and come into open environments. And if you are already connected to a village community, you will have a beautiful place to go to, a beautiful place to be in, connect with the community. And this is the only way, as I say here, being the change you have always wanted to be. To make change, you have to be the change. And that's the only way that, all of this can go forward. I'm really, once again, so pleased and so happy for, Dr. Kumi and her summit team to have put this whole presentation and this whole summit thing together. And I think, let us hope, I really would like to conclude by saying that there is so much hope for India to come together and work together to develop the rural areas. And a particular thing that I perhaps missed out, and I'd like to say here, is that, you know, if you are able to start the cycle by, training rural educated youth to work in their own communities, it will set up something in motion, and it will get more and more people in the rural areas to have opportunities of livelihood within the rural space, and they don't have to migrate anymore. So somewhere it has to start, as one point, and start building that cycle of goodness, and cycle of, being able to move the whole wheel forward. So thank you so much, for having listened to me all this while, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Jai Hind. Pull out of this. Stop sharing.
Many thanks, Nitin. Your work in rural India is truly and honestly laudable. And what fascinated me when I was listening to your presentation today is that all the solutions that you have suggested in your presentation are so doable. They are practical, they are doable. It just needs a drive on our part to really participate in the development of rural India. So thank you very much, Nitin. That was an excellent presentation. And
Thank you, Kumi. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I do wish rural learning spaces all the very best. With that, I'd like to share my screen once again and talk briefly about the structure of the summit. Just give me a moment for me to get to it, and we can talk about the structure. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Yes, Kumi. Yes.
Wonderful. So basically, the summit is conceptualized to be different from the normal seminars and webinars also that we attend these days, the refresher courses, the orientation courses. The speaker speaks for about 20 to 25 minutes, and you see the speaker in red on this diagram. But for months now, the speaker has been liaising with 4 people whom we call the change facilitators. The change facilitators have really understood from the speaker the way in which visible changes can be made. So these 4 change facilitators will, after the summit, beginning in February next year, because we have a parenting summit in January, the change facilitators will start providing training. Training to whom? To you people, to the online audience. You can sign Google Forms, which are on our website, www.ggps4change.org. You can sign those Google Forms and request to be a part of the action groups. These 4 change facilitators who have been liaising with the speaker will provide 12 hours of training over 3 months, entirely free of cost to you. You are then expected to create your own groups and go out into the world and implement the change. At the end of 1 year, you will produce an impact report and give us a clear idea of the ways in which you have succeeded. We then hope to create a white paper, send the white paper to the government, and tell the government we are not merely talking about change. This is actually the change that is visibly present. So I urge all of you to take this wonderful opportunity. If you feel strongly about working in rural areas, many of us do, but we don't know where to start. So with Nitin and the wonderful 4 change facilitators whom you will hear now in a short while, you can start your training and you can really make a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. We now move on to welcome our first change facilitator, Dr. Sucheta S. Pawar. She's an academician, researcher, and first generation entrepreneur with 3 years of industry experience and 20 plus years of teaching experience in the subjects of managerial economics, business environment, international business, mass media research, and business research methods. She has done her PhD in economics from the University of Mumbai on the topic Economic Feasibility of Organic Food and Organic Farming in Maharashtra. Along with economics, entrepreneurship is her forte. She has started a student based incubation center called as the Center of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, COEI, at the PTVA's Institute of Management, Mumbai. She is now Dean of COEI, mentoring student startups as well as organizing entrepreneurial training sessions. Welcome, Dr. Pawar, and over to you.
Thank you, Dina. Good evening to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Kumi and her team, as well as Mr. Nitin Orayan, for giving me an opportunity to speak on this platform. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so as I can, are you able to see my screen? Yes, Nina? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, please.
Yes. So I'm going to speak about entrepreneurial training for rural youth, why and how. Now, pandemic has changed many things. There are many opportunities created by pandemic. Opportunities to think differently, to do different things, and rural youth are not an exception. I got an opportunity to speak to some educated rural youth from Pawar district. And what I got to see that they have already got into entrepreneurship, maybe to face the problem of lockdown. Rupali sold fish and mangoes and supported her family. Sushma, as you can see in this photograph, she did online business and provided whatever were the need of rural customers. Dinesh aspires to start his own printing business if he gets that kind of hand-holding. Mukesh has started a small cake shop in villages and doing very well. Now, this is something wonderful happening. They have already gone in a path of entrepreneurship, and if this continues, then rural development is not going to remain a dream, it's going to be dream coming true. So government policies are at place, NGOs are already extending helping hand. If rural youth themselves come forward, become job creators, they are definitely going to pull other villagers along with them. And then there is going to be a real rural development that we will get to see. However, current change, is it temporary or permanent? That's what I wanted to ask. So I spoke to them further, and what I could see, I feel it's a looming threat. Many of them, they said, okay, just a temporary thing we are doing. As the lockdown gets lifted, we are again going to go and search for a job. Oh my God, this shouldn't happen. They should continue, they should see to it that the business grows further. So what is stopping them? Why they still want to go to this original way of living, which was not any which ways a good way of living? What I realized is maybe they need more knowledge, knowledge of how to grow the current existing enterprise, make it still bigger, or maybe start some other enterprise which is more profitable. Maybe they need more knowledge, and if they get more knowledge, the knowledge definitely going to give them more confidence. And that is where we need to step in. It has to be a timely intervention in the form of entrepreneurial training. That training will give them necessary knowledge. And as you can see, that's what we plan to do it here, and expecting your cooperation also. Now, how are we going to give this entrepreneurial training? As you can see, there are two levels. One, you can call it as a foundation course. We call it as basic entrepreneurship development program, or basic EDP and advanced EDP. Now, basic EDP, again, as I say, kind of foundation course. It will make them aware of various facets of entrepreneurship, give them some real-time experience in actually doing a small business, and they will be able to enjoy it, because initially what they are going to start with is identifying rural problem. So that's what they will understand. Okay, so whatever business we are doing, we are actually trying to solve our own problems. So as you can see in this particular flow chart, this is what we are planning to do during basic EDP. Identify different rural problems, select only those which are prominent, bigger problems or problems of many. Once you locate problems of many, pick up any problem out of that and then start finding solutions for that one specific problem. Now, once the solutions are found, which are their ideas, which they will have to develop further, they'll have to think about that solution from different angles, which we call it as stakeholder analysis. They also have to understand whether whatever solution we are thinking of, can that be financially profitable? So that's what we call it as feasibility report. They will learn to make a feasibility report. And after doing that, they would know how to make a basic business plan, which they can present in front of investors. Now, this is going to be a classroom kind of activity, but the activity done by participants in groups with lot of interaction, lot of brainstorming done by the group. Now, this theory, a kind of a theory, needs to be supported by action. And that's what the latter part of basic EDP will do. As you can see, we are planning to give them a practical assignment. Now, this kind of assignment is tested and proven. It has been done many times with lots of groups, and we have realized that participants really enjoy this activity. And this is self-learning. That's what this activity gives you. So what is the practical assignment? Each group will get 1,000 rupees as their initial investment. 1 week's time, they have to use only that much money, go to villagers, speak to people, find out what they like, create their own product, start selling their own product, make profit, make loss, whatever it is. Now you understand, if the profit is made, that itself is going to give them confidence that yes, we can do it. And if they are not able to make a profit, at least they would know why they couldn't make a profit. So whatever is that experiential learning, they are expected to put it in one-page business plan canvas, which they have previously learned, and present it in front of industry experts and get a lot of value addition and suggestions which are going to be useful. So this is going to be a good experience for them with little bit confidence boosting that we can do it. If we are not able to, but there are many other groups, they could do it. And after this is done, now they are ready to go for the next level, which is going to be Advanced Entrepreneurship Development Program. Now, this is a program, the end of the program is actually launching your business. So again, these students or these participants will have to revisit their initial idea, what they have started thinking of, do a lot of market research, understand more about that particular idea, understand whether it's really commercially feasible or not. There will be a lot of other kind of information also, maybe what are the legal issues related to that, what are different forms of company, GST rules and regulations, is there any IPR, intellectual property involved, They will also be getting a lot of information about what all funding opportunities they have. What's the importance of a team? How can they segregate the entire business workload among other people and understand their skill sets and accordingly allocate work to them? Create a rough product, okay, so which we call it as a prototype, and launch a prototype in the market. Try to sell it. At least let people use the product, get feedback, understand what is good with that, what is not so good with that, so that you can actually start upgrading the product further and then launching the business. So this is what is going to be advanced EDP. Now, as you must have studied this flow chart, so here at the end of this program, they're almost ready to launch their business, equipped with a lot of knowledge, which is going to give them confidence. So guys, please join us at entrepreneurship training to rural youth, and please give your most valuable contribution to this self-sustained rural development. Once again, I thank you, Kumi and entire team, for giving me an opportunity to speak here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Pawar. We now move on to welcome our second change facilitator, Mr. Ajinkya Pandurang Kumawat. He is a B.Tech from the Institute of Chemical Technology in Pharmaceuticals and Fine Chemicals and holds an MMS degree with a specialization in marketing. Ajinkya has over 8 years of experience in academics and the pharma manufacturing sector. He is currently working at the PTVA's Institute of Management. He is also actively involved in entrepreneurship and rural projects. Welcome, Mr. Ajinkya, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Nina and ma'am. Ma'am, can we start with the presentation? Sucheta ma'am, next slide, please. So, thank you, ma'am. So, as Dr. Sucheta Pawar rightly mentioned about the importance of entrepreneurial education, one such story is of a girl named Chaitali Maskar. We at PTVA's Institute of Management have tried to bridge the gap between the rural and urban education with the aim of social upliftment through entrepreneurship and providing practical and on-field education to our students. It all started basically with the idea, again I would like to take the name, by Dr. Sucheta Pawar, about the need of rural-urban connect. The project section, as it was named, was started with the aim of enlightening the management students about the grassroots realities that exist in the different strata of Indian society. As you can see it on the slide, the main aim and objectives of this project was to basically sensitize management students about the problems faced by rural population, and also to create opportunities for applied research. One of the main objectives of this activity was to provide hand-holding to rural youth, specifically rural women, in starting a rural enterprise and creating jobs for local women. Ma'am, can we go to the third slide, please? Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So for this purpose, we at PTVA's Institute of Management connected with Learning Space Foundation. Mr. Nitin Orayan at Learning Space Foundation appointed Chaitali Maskar, a girl in her mid-20s who had the responsibility of supporting her family, she being the sole breadwinner of her family. So Project Saksham is the story of Chaitali's transformation from being an employee to an employer, just with her sheer dedication, determination, and unending passion. Next slide, ma'am, please. So basically, how did this happen? How did we do it? Initially, our management students were given the responsibility of conducting survey of rural and tribal women in Palghar district of Maharashtra. The survey was focused on gathering information with respect to what skills as do these women possess, and what skills could be developed. The aim of the activity somewhere was also not just to empower the rural women by helping them monetarily or temporarily, but by creating a system of continuous money generation through acquired skill set. So for that we created teams of students of with different portfolios like operations, finance, human resource management, marketing, and these teams were trained by industry experts. These industry experts had multiple sessions with our students, and every portfolio created a plan, a working plan for this project. Now, these sessions by the industry experts helped our students in imparting practical knowledge, which was very essential for this product. So once the rural survey was done, we screened the data, we identified that stitching and cloth work is a skill set that can be easily acquired by these women. In all, 20 women were selected. To start the project, again, it was decided to purchase 5 sewing machines for the training and production purpose. So I would like to add here that out of the 4 factors of production, land was provided by Learning Space Foundation, labor was managed by Chaitali Maskar under our guidance, initial capital was raised by the students of Parle Tilak Vidyalaya Association Institute of Management through crowdfunding, and the 4th factor, training and skill development of this working women, was done with the help of tutors that were made available from the corporate and industry. Now, with a small twist, the production started on 11th March, and there was a lockdown on 22nd March. So, the occurrence of the pandemic at the nascent stage of the project, with over 2 months of lockdown, the project was about to dissipate. But then, this was not to be. We motivated Chaitali, who then took the role of a leader, gathered her labor force, the tribal women, motivated them once again, and decided, to grab the opportunity of rising demands of mask this time. So we started production of mask. Once again, training was provided to these women along with Chaitali for producing and selling masks. Chaitali then, started taking orders and delivering them on time. Next slide, please. So, you can see these are some of the snapshots of the students team and the working area. Over the period of last 6 months, Chaitali has gradually gained steadiness in her business. Parle Tilak Vidyalayas Institute of Management and COEI, along with LSF, have pitched in to support Chaitali whenever required. Now, Chaitali is at a stage where she is steadily managing her business on her own and needs very little hand-holding. This is just one such success story. We hope for many more. Ma'am, next slide, please. So we at PTVA's just so we at PTVA's Institute of Management have developed a model of rural connect through entrepreneurship. This model is tried and tested by us, and we wish to disseminate our experience and expertise in this area. Institutions, organizations, and individuals who wish to work towards entrepreneurship or wish to explore the rural-urban connect, I shall be guiding you through this process. I'll be happy to guide you through this process. A customized model can be developed, along with the process that needs to be generated. With this best wishes, ma'am, last slide, please. With this best wishes, I am sure you all shall come forward and join us for a very wonderful experience. Thank you once again. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ajinkya. We now move on to welcome our next change facilitator, Ms. Anasuya Banerji. Anasuya graduated from Loreto College, Kolkata. She completed her bachelor's in Hindustani classical music, vocal, and Kathak, and led cultural tours with Rotary to raise funds for a social cause. As executive coordinator of IIT Gandhinagar and COO IITP Monash Research Academy, she was involved in ensuring the streamlined inception and sustainable development of both institutions. She has tutored underprivileged and underachieving school students to significantly improve their performance in the humanities. She adopted a secondary school for tribal children in Balwanda, Maharashtra, bringing in external funding and resources for the betterment of their education and nutrition. She set up Asmita in IIT Roorkee, a sustainable self-help center to impart literacy and upskill underprivileged women. She introduced technology enhanced teaching and skill development and subsequent industry placement in Anushruti, a school for hearing and speech impaired children in IIT Roorkee. As Vice President of Vidya, a pan India NGO, she enhanced engagement by bringing in external funding and resources for after school programs for disadvantaged children and built a sustainable skill development program for socially deprived women. Welcome, Ms. Banerjee, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina, for the introduction, and a very good evening to all of you. And special thanks to Nitin and Dr. Kumi and her team for inviting me at this summit to talk about building an ecosystem of mentorship for rural youth. When I talk about mentorship, there are several benefits that mentoring can bring to small communities, especially places that are isolated from urban spaces and can be matched with a mentor to reduce that isolation. Mentoring cannot be structured or planned, but imbued. Next slide, please. Thank you, Sucheta Pawar. Why mentorship in the rural context? Now, while we perceive the word rural as a strong adjective, my idea is to look at rural youth as a resource and not as a liability. Mentorship can serve as an able tool to reorganize the resources at their disposal, to reorient the youth towards creating sustainable opportunities for themselves. Now, here I foresee two challenges. First of all, mentorship to create high value opportunities in rural areas versus migrating to cities for low value opportunities. Secondly, breaking down the barriers and stigmas within communities through reverse engineering. Now, a question might come to your mind. Why am I using the term reverse engineering in rural context? Mentors can actually reverse engineer the system and create reverse blueprint models that can be openly communicated, questioned, and discussed. Now, all of these will create or lead to guidance maps for actions on ground. They need to be explicit as far as possible. Next slide, please. The 3 C's that I look at: collaborate, cooperate, and co-work. The 3 C's, when we understand, we also understand that it's doable. A doable model in community models to create new possibilities. While 21st century pandemic has actually left the world gasping, it's time we find an ideal route for positive mentorship roles. When we talk about understanding the community, as we have heard our speakers before me, they've talked about how they need to understand the community, learn from the grassroots. I would add into that saying we also need to brainstorm some convergences. We can converge with few ideas that can marry well with the rural educated youth. Going forward, when we talk about convergences, we can consider collaborative models that can be built by our mentors. These community models will actually, as I said, create new opportunities and also construct new enterprises. As a mentor, provide encouragement to the community to know their innate skills and knowledge, support to transform community aspirations to practical solutions and actions. Next slide, please. 4 S's: skills, sustainable, sense, strength. Now, when I talk about skills, all our speakers have already spoken about the existing skills that the rural community already has. Now, how would a mentor make a difference to that? A mentor needs to take personal responsibility to advocate a change, champion the change, as well as manage the change. You need to be a role model, sense the willingness in the rural educated youth as well as in the community. Provide rural youth the access to financial services, market linkages to make them self-reliant, and also help them to be more socially responsible. Next slide, please. A key takeaway from mentoring rural youth is what I have summarized over here. It's GASP. So G basically stands for stay grounded and find the gaps. So it's the gaps that a mentor needs to find out. A, understand their aspirations and acknowledge them. Please lend a ear and listen to their aspirations. It's very, very important. Thirdly, develop the skills, the right skills, and evolve them into sustainable models by adding strengths. And lastly, the potentials. As a mentor, discover the potentials to explore possibilities for a positive future. Next slide, please. So this particular slide explains that mentorship and guidance is at the crux of maximizing the potential of today's rural youth. It can serve as a complement to both education and its role in fostering rural entrepreneurship. Mentorship can truly, I believe that, uplift the vision and fuse the cause with conviction. Last slide, please. Dream big. Now, how do you make them dream big? As a mentor, you have to come forward, understand their dreams, bring in good facilitators, request everyone around you to make a difference in the lives of the rural youth today. They have huge potentials. They have aspirations. We need the right time to tap these potentials and make them or help them to achieve their dreams. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, audience.
Thank you, Ms. Banerjee. It was a pleasure to hear you. We now welcome our next change facilitator, Ms. Anjali Singh. She is a development sector professional with 5+ years of work experience in the industry. She holds a master's degree in commerce and a master's degree in social work. She has also completed her MBA in social entrepreneurship and currently works with Learning Space Foundation. Her domain expertise is livelihood, education, and rural development projects. Welcome, Ms. Singh, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Miss Nina, for the lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Anasuya ma'am, for taking us through the relevance and importance of mentoring. I would be talking about profiling of rural youth for a livelihood program. Could we please go to the next slide? Okay, so what is profiling? First, we need to understand what does it mean exactly in context of such a rural program. In a nutshell, it means collecting various kinds of details required, as in demographic information, socio-economic, personal, etc., of the candidates that we want to select for our program in a very scientific manner. To do so, various tools and techniques are used. It is a very critical step of the entire program implementation, and it is carried out before the program goes on the floor. Now, what are the objectives? Why do we do it? Our intent is to find the right match between our potential candidates and the program dynamics. We want to make sure that the right candidates are selected for the program, as in, we should be able to reach out to the most deserving individuals who feel that the program would help them achieve their goals. Now, let's look at some of the outcomes that we would achieve by doing this process. Profiling helps in identifying the gaps in program design at an early stage. Once you meet people, when you talk to them, you gather information about them, it gives you a chance to go back and modify your program if required to make sure that the program is more successful. Could we please? Now we will look at the three major components of profiling process. So profiling process is taken at three stages. At individual level, we consider the candidate and information about him or herself. And then at the family level, we talk about holistic development. So gathering information on the individual's family to understand their challenges and the resources available at their disposal stands to be very crucial. At the community level, we wish to understand their overall challenges and the resources that are available with them as a community. So we hold a very quick, rapid rural appraisal with them to understand what are the things available with them that can be used by the individual as in line with the community to develop a better plan and implement it in a manner that it is most beneficial to everybody. Could we please go to the next slide? Now, what would you learn? So if you choose to be a part of the action group, these are the things that you would learn. First is to understanding the local context. So it does not matter what program you're building, but what is more important is the context. One geography is completely different from another. So you cannot just take one program and apply it everywhere. So understanding the local context is very crucial. Then designing of the profiling plan includes steps and resources involved. Then there are tools for profiling in which we focus on questionnaires, interview schedules, how to use observation and focus group discussions as part of your whole process to get more accurate information that can be used more nicely. Then analysis of the findings. There are different techniques and methods that can be used to analyze your data that you get to get more accurate information again. Lastly, application of the findings. Once you gather your information, you analyze it, then you need to understand how do you apply it so that the program becomes more effective. So that's all I have to add because of the lack of time. And thank you so much for listening to me. I would request Nina ma'am to please take it forward from here. Thank you so much.
As you may have realized, all change four facilitators are experts in their given areas. This was such a rich experience listening to Nitin Orayan and to the four of you. Thank you very, very much. We have some interesting questions from the audience. So Ms. Donna Reen, my summit coordinator, and I will pose those questions. They can be answered by Mr. Orayan or any of the other facilitators. The first question is that in order to understand rural communities, it is extremely important for us to go and live there. But how can some of us who cannot afford to quit our jobs really manage that? That question came in first.
So may I answer this, Mr.
Anybody, please.
So you really don't need to quit your job, because I was working in IITB Monash and I made it a point to go on the weekends. I traveled 120 kilometers and I set up the school. So it is the willingness that needs to be there. You have to have the passion to achieve your goals. So that's all that is required. It's
so
not,
in response to this question, you would say it's not necessary to quit your job and to go and stay in a rural community. You can still travel back and forth if, as you rightly said, the will is there.
The willingness should be there.
Sure.
I would like
to add something.
say
Yes.
something, Kumi.
Yes.
The whole concept of training rural educated youth to be the connecting points, is also how, so many people in the urban areas who possibly cannot just quit their jobs and be in the, rural community can actually connect with these rural educated youth, and, they become the way to go there. Because in my own experience, many of the rural educated youth have been trained, are now very well versed with writing emails, making phone calls. They understand, so many skills of being, setting up something, event coordination and so on. And therefore, that's the whole idea of building these skills among youth, so that they can become the mediating point, and so many urban people can then have their own projects in rural areas, and you don't have to be there all the time. There can be a beautiful association between the rural educated youth and urban people. So it's such a brilliant question asked, because yes, so many people will be able to enable this.
I think this is exactly the position that Mr. Chandrasekharan takes in his book, Digital Nation, that these will constitute the bridges and enable dialogue between the urban and rural areas. Thank you very much. Donna has a question.
Yes, for Mr. Nitin Orayan.
Yes.
You made the shift to the rural area, right? So,
yes.
What were your personal challenges to make this shift? And were there times when you wished you were back in back in the city?
Yeah. So the challenges were so many that I don't think they're even you can count them. There are so many challenges, but the biggest challenge was that no one was willing to accept that a man who's established in the urban area and doing so well must put everything behind and go to a village. Many of them said, he's completely gone mad. He's lost it. He's lost it to be able to, put everything behind and go to the village. But for me, within, there was such a conviction, such a, like a pull, a draw to really find my calling. And this is where, a lot of us, have to reach our calling sometime or the other in our lifetimes, because we do what everyone else does. We do, we just want to be within the system, within the, the four, points, of a box. And so much of a calling is left out. So I think my calling came that when I was just about turning 40. And so, they say life begins at 40 for some people, but life begins any time of our life. It can begin at 60 or even later. And so I think all of us can go towards our calling. This is my hope. Thank you.
Someone else asks that would you recommend that there be reservation for rural educated youth in private and public sectors in urban areas?
If I may answer that, we are actually training rural youth to actually be able to have mainstream skills and to be able to match up to anywhere in the world. So we've had rural youth. I would like to cite an example. One girl from my very first batch at Learning Space in 2005, 15 years back, a little girl, 11-year-old, has now become an Italian chef, worked in the Oberoi hotel, in the Vetro restaurant, and has traveled all over the world now, and has left her sense of being a village girl and therefore can't do this or can't do that. She's left it far behind and right in the mainstream, and now has come back in the pandemic, and wants to do something in the village with all her exposure and experience. So it's not about reservation at all. It's about bringing them up, and opening a window to the world so that they can see that the world is their own place to live in. It's not the little village. The whole world is ready to receive them.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have one here. Many of us have the intention but lack the drive or the push. How would you ensure that drive or push for the urban individual?
If I may answer that, but would anyone from the panel also like to answer that? Please go ahead. Anasuya, would you like to answer that? How can the drive be developed?
Yes. So as I mentioned in the first question that Kumi had asked me, and I feel that there should be willingness and you need to have passion. So if there is a drive, you can actually steer it in the right way. And I feel that anybody who has a drive within can actually explore all the opportunities. There shouldn't be any barrier. You can make a difference with a drive, whether you are in the urban space or in the rural space. A classic example that I may, offer over here is the school that we started in 2002 in Walwanda, a tribal school, was started with minimal funds. I still remember I could gather only 15,000 rupees. And I was just wondering, how could I build a school in Walwanda, all the way from Pawar to Walwanda? It's the drive. And I felt that if I connect with the right people, I will definitely make it happen. And today, I see that similar passion and that drive in the principal as well. Despite any kind of support from CSR or any corporate bodies or the government, the school is an unaided school. But still, he had the strengths to build hostel for 50 boys and 50 girls. So that is where it is today. We started with 35 students, and today we have 300 odd students. So it is the drive within that will actually steer you to the right directions. Thank you.
Somebody else asks here that do you do programs only for the youth, or do you also have adult education programs? The second part of the question is that do the adults really encourage their children to take part in your programs?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that. I'd really like all of the audience and everyone in the urban areas to understand how much of the rural populace, especially parents, have come forward in giving their children education. It has changed so much that every parent aspires for his or her child to really do well in life. And this is why we see so many girls from native areas, from hamlets, from remote places, going out to high school, which is 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers away. And this is something new, it has never happened before. I think to a great extent, government policies to have more children, rural children going to school have tremendously helped. The television has helped, surprisingly. Today, while the village has television and can see reality programs and can see somebody from a faraway village in a dance program winning the competition in an Indian Idol, and every child feels I can be there, I can be part of this. I've come across so many little young people in the village areas doing the best of pop dance and doing the best of rock music. They're all into it. It's just that there is no opportunity for everyone to move out of the village and go to the city. The city can't hold it all. Can't hold the entire of India in its palm. So now it's about, as Anasuya puts it, the reverse engineering, I think, model needs to really be looked at, because it needs to be reversed. We need to now, go into the rural areas and start working. One small point, if I can make at all, if there is enough time, somebody asked about, the drive and so on, which Anasuya answered. But I want to really say here that, do we all know that all of us earning people in India, how much of our taxes go into what kind of programs? We all taxpayers, and how so much of the investment that is made into rural education, and all these young people, are educated. All of this needs to come and touch our lives somewhere, because we are contributors to it. We're not, it's not the government doing it. We're all doing it. We're all paying for it. It's just that there is an agency which has been handling it, to do certain part in their processes, and we are contributors. And so we should say, if I'm already contributing part of my income to support somebody, can I not go a little forward? Can I not take a little more interest in someone, further, and make it a more beautiful experience for myself and for the child, or for the youth, or for a girl, or for a community? So it's about just stepping ahead now, coming forth and becoming a part of a movement, and being the change, as I call it. Thank you.
I would like to say something about it. May I, Bhumi?
Yes, please.
Yeah, where elderly persons and their support is concerned, my experience, we are incubating student startups, and all the startups currently are from urban students. We are the one who face maximum problem from parents, because parents are not very much for their children getting into entrepreneurship. They are always trying to tell them to go for a better job profile. Exactly opposite situation I could feel in case of Chaitali's case. When Chaitali decided to become an entrepreneur, I told her, have you spoken to your mom? She said, yes, my mom is absolutely fine with what I'm doing. In fact, her elder sister has also said that whatever help you need in your enterprise, I'm definitely ready to help. So this is a wonderful experience of mine, because here I'm not getting any kind of problems from parents. They are there helping their children. So what children need is exposure. So then we need to be there to give them the required exposure. And the way Learning Space Foundation is providing the staunch support for whatever project action we are doing, that is also the answer for the very first question, that if you don't need to leave a job, I am doing my job, I'm not leaving it, but I have Learning Space Foundation, we have done collaboration with them who are working that ground level work, a solid work they are doing. And whatever we are doing is an icing on cake. So that collaboration is really helping. That one urban institute collaborates with NGO, which is working in rural area. That's also a good idea. You can, look for such kind of collaboration opportunities also. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. All this work requires a lot of thinking, a lot of collaboration, a lot of reviewing, and a lot of restructuring as well. So I think there are no more questions. So thank you very, very much. And Nina, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Vivina and Ms. Reen for an enriching Q&A session. I now invite Ms. Shalanta Mascarenas, Senior School English Teacher, JBCN International, Borivali, to kindly propose the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nina. Thank you, Mr. Nitin Orayan, for a highly effective presentation. Many thanks also to team of change facilitators comprising Sucheta Pawar, Ajinkya Kumawat, Anasuya Banerji, and Anjali Singh. We applaud the work you all do and know that you've worked consistently for months to put together a very meaningful action project. Our gratitude go out to all our participants who have joined us today from all over India and different countries of the world. Do also register for the Parenting Summit from 8th to the 31st of January 2021. Kindly note that the sessions are scheduled especially for all of you only on the weekends for your convenience. We need you to work collaboratively with us to bring about the change we want to see in the world. I'd also like you all to kindly note that the Google Forms for the Action Project on creating sustainable livelihood solutions for rural educated youth will be available on our website www.gtpsforchange.org from Monday, 30th November 2020. Do also remember to join us tomorrow for our session by our very own Dr. Kumi Vivina on creating a sourcefully intelligent evolutionary narrative through H teams. The session is tomorrow from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Do also like and follow us, the Global Tipping Point Summit, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Until then, thank you. Stay safe.